Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Live in the Tank with Keith, Deyo, and Aaron Hairston. It's Wednesday, people. Work Wednesday. Let's go. Throw your W's up. Let's go, baby. Let's make it happen. And there is so much to be talking about right now. I tell you guys, there's never been a better time, okay, to be an entrepreneur. There's never been a better time to grow and to develop your inner self and that belief. And we're going to get into Work Wednesday, and I'm going to go ahead and share out a few invites. But before we get started, as always, I want to go ahead and have you guys share some gratitude, what you appreciated of, what's got you fired up inside right now. I mean, there's so much going on right now in the world that I'm excited about. I really want to hear from you guys. So what are you grateful for? What are you excited about? What's fired you up today? Let's go. Let me see some stuff. Let's go, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. My goodness gracious. What a wealth of opportunity that's out there right now. Oh my gosh. It's so crazy, guys. It's man, we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of things that I want to share with you guys. But I want to hear from you guys first. So, Aaron, what's up, man? Good to see you, bro. What you thankful for, man? What's firing you up today on this Wealthy Wednesday, Work Wednesday, Wealth of Information Wednesday? Let's go. What are you grateful for, bro? And who else we got on here? Sierra, what's going on, girl? Good to see you. Good to see you. Kathy, what's going on? Good to see you. Awesome. Thank you for joining the tank today. So come on, guys. Let's go, man. What are you grateful for? What's your gratitude, man? Let's go. I'm fired up to be reaching out and connecting with new people. Amen, Sierra. Let's go. You are a valuable person. You are so valuable. You are so valuable, Cece. And the world deserves to know who you are. So good stuff. Get out there. Let them know that you are there to help them and to guide them. So grateful for a friend and mentor. Aw, love you too, CC. What's up, Dennis? How you doing, man? What are you grateful for today, bro? What fires you up today, man? Yeah, I was listening to that video too. The Grant Cardone and the Eric Rory. Yeah, they were all over the place. There was so much fire within both of them. They both just wanted to talk. They wanted to just go. They was like, "Don't hold me back. Let's go." That was funny. Okay, gratitude, guys. Gratitude. Couple more minutes. Fired up to be able to be creating a legacy for his daughter. Good stuff, Aaron. Good stuff. And those around me. Grateful for this group. Amen, man. Teamwork makes the dream work, bro. We are so better together. We are so better together, right? But here's the interesting thing. We are responsible for us, okay? Each and every one of us has a gift that they've been given, okay? Or gifts that they've been given. I was talking to a young man today who said he almost works 24 hours a day. Okay, he works within group homes, he works with communities. He's all over the place. And I said, man, it sounds like the Lord has blessed you with many gifts. And he says, well, you can call them gifts, but I have a few other words for them. and you know, it's really about perspective. It's how you see them, right? Yeah, right on, Dennis. I know it's crazy, right? It's the evolution, you know, of connection. Christine, grateful for inspiration. Amen. Blessed to be a blessing. Amen. And as we grow, right, as we grow, the clearer we get to understanding what those gifts are. The clearer we get to understanding what those gifts are. And then we can start to focus on those gifts. That's what it's all about. It's about being able to bring those gifts to life. Right. And when you talk about getting to work every day, that's the thing that we need to be focused most on. Is identifying our gifts and our talents and things that we just have a burning desire to do. We can't wait to get up to go. And if you haven't felt that way in a while, just listen.
Cleanse.
Listen. Huh? Cleanse.
You haven't felt
That works too. That's the best way to do it, man. So what's up, Keith? What's going on, bro? It's good to see you, man.
getting it done. How you guys holding up?
Yesterday was tough. It was a tough
Yeah.
day. It's been, you know what? It's been a tough month and a half or so. When we first heard that our cat had kidney failure, we knew that it wasn't, it wasn't going to take long, but we were very optimistic in regards to how we can, have her stick around longer, all the way to the point where Leslie and I were giving her IVs every day.
Wow.
So we were giving her fluids and stuff. And then it got to the point, the last 3 days, she stopped eating. Um, and that's part of that process, right? She started feeling nauseous and she was such a freaking monster of a cat,
I know.
right? And she got real skinny. And so it got to the point where we were like, what are we doing? And it was tough. And then we pulled out the carrier to bring her down to make the call to the vet, and she went right and sat next to the carrier. She looked right at us, and she was like, "I'm
Hmm.
ready." So I had already had my closure, and my emotions through the relationship that our children. I mean, that's 16 years, So
Wow.
she was here before our kids, and and all through their infant stages. I mean, that cat was like a cat dog, you know what I mean? And so it was rough, and I think it hit Elijah hard last night. But again, it's weird. Like you find yourself doing certain things that you wouldn't do because of the cat. Like don't leave the
Yep.
basement door open, don't leave the front door open. Like and she was such a terror. Like she would tear up the garbage bags of the recycling bag, right? So we couldn't hang it on the door. So we find ourselves doing things, and I caught my wife yesterday or even today doing that. It was interesting, and I told her, I said, honey, we've had that. And a little story real quick about how I acquired that nuggie of hers. I actually was in Waterbury Mall one day, and this was 16 years ago. Um, I was in Waterbury Mall, and I walked by. It was called the Gentle Jungle, and it was like this little, pet store in the mall, and they had this little cage with a bunch of little kittens in it, and there was this one kitten that was climbing on everybody. And I was like, man, and I was having one of those days. I think it was in between work. Like I was having one of those days where I was super overwhelmed and I needed something to kind of get away from. And it seemed that it led me to this little pet store. And so I
And
went
here
into the
you
pet
are,
store and I was
petting
like,
kittens.
can I hold that kitten? Can I play with that kitten? And the
Grown
guy
ass
was like,
man.
sure. And he pulled her out and she was running around and all that. Next thing you know, she's in my car and she ended up coming home.
Oh
And
no.
she was a problem because she I had bought my wife a Persian cat because that's what she had always wanted. So I bought that. I had that flown up from Florida, which was really cool. But she was such a prissy little cat, and this one was
Yeah.
a Himalayan that was just a brutal beast from
Monster.
Waterbury, and she was so different, right? So and I remember, she literally pooped all over the house that night.
Oh no.
And Leslie came home from work, and she's like, "What the hell did you bring home?"
Terror.
And she looked at me, and and from that day on, we fell in love with her, and she was such a game changer. She let the kids do whatever she wanted to her, throw her in boxes, push her around, like it was just really cool. So, it was really great memories, that we had, and it was hard, but I had my closure. I think it was probably 2 weeks ago. We were giving her an IV, and I was just like, man, this really sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just watching her wither away. But you know what? That's part of life, and grieving doesn't really have a timeline. So there'll be moments where you'll be like, oh yeah, she's not here. And so we're going through it, man. But I appreciate all the love and support. And Leslie said we're going to take a break from animals for a little bit. Now that both of our cats have passed. So yeah, man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was it's amazing how they adopt your personality and and you saw that your personality in that cat when you met it. And so it was a constant reminder for your family and for Leslie about who you are. Like, hey,
Yeah,
when I'm not here, I need this cat to be here because it's going to remind you of me and it's going to annoy you and
yeah,
it's going to but at the same time you're going to love it, but then you get so mad at it, but you still love it and it's going to be these battles. It's going to allow you to figure out
yeah.
the battle between right and wrong or love and fear and it's gonna piss you off and so all those things it's really cool where it adopts your personality and you kind of leave it as a gift for them and it's amazing how the animals do that and I mean we had when we had lost our dog we waited a while. It was weird. We said, we're not gonna just get another one. It's like because then it feels like a replacement. You can do
Right.
that with
And
like a
there,
fish or a bird, like the things that you're not touching, they don't have physical connection with. But when it's a cat or a dog or an animal that you literally sleeps in your bed, it takes a
right,
while. But it's not like, oh, we're gonna take 2 years away. You'll know it.
right.
There's gonna be a time when it shows up, and you're gonna be like, you
Right.
know what?
The connection will be made. It'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah, just
and
like
that, and
Nuggie in the mall.
there you go. Because the really cool thing is that it that your cat was not really there as your cat. It was there
Mm,
as a messenger and
mm,
showed up in physical
yeah.
form. And so that energy signature was specific to come into your home at that time. And that's really where our pets are great reminders. Everything has energy, but it's when it comes through the form of a pet. And some people see their loved ones. Some people see their parents. Some people see. Remember our friends, Phoebe saw her mom, and she kept
Right.
this cat, and she thought it was her mom. So it's really cool how we do that and how we can allow connection to happen. And then it helps our children learn valuable lessons without having to suffer the extreme moments of what they may imagine would be the worst when it's actually a time for celebration. No matter what, it's a time to
Mm,
celebrate. And
yeah.
that's really cool. So I mean, you can teach your children that, and they learn so many lessons along the way. And now the cool part is when the next pet you get, they can start to learn the lesson of ownership when they get to have their pet. You call it their cat or their dog or their guinea pig or whatever it is.
Right. They can make that connection. Right.
And now
Yeah.
they get to do it just like you did, and it'll approach them. And it's absolutely amazing the opportunities we get as these versions of humans, and in this time where we really got to spend even more time with something, or some that energy signature, that soul figure. You got to spend even more time with it to be able to give your cat IVs. Think of the opportunity
I know.
to
It was
to have
crazy,
that
bro.
right,
Oh
to
my
be
God.
like,
Yeah.
we're giving
What are
our
we doing?
cat IVs, like we're home, we're together, and we're
Yeah.
able to allow this to be as slow as we need it to be. And what an amazing time when we've had moments of it sucks right now. This time sucks
Hmm.
right now, or COVID this or COVID that. You're able to look at that and say, man, what an amazing time. Aaron, there's been so many. You could write an entire book on the amazing opportunities you've had since time for money wasn't the first thing you woke up to do every day,
I'm
and how
trying.
it's
I'm
and how
literally
it's
trying to
affected.
write a book right now. And
That's true. It's a matter of you being on more interviews. Remember, I was telling you, you got to get it out on camera first and be on
yeah.
more interviews, because that's the energy. It's tough, man,
Yeah.
when you're putting stuff on paper and you're not necessarily in state. Those they don't jump off the page like
Right.
they
No, they
do in
don't.
real life, and
No.
that's why state's so important. That I
Yeah.
mean that's definitely a huge piece of it. But think about all the moments you've had because time for money isn't the thing you wake up to every morning. Not that it's a bad way, but it's not the only
No.
way now,
No. No.
and it doesn't have to be the majority way. And
Right.
you have the opportunity to spread wealth rather than simply attain it.
Right. And it's it's been um it's been a roller coaster.
Hmm.
And really the interesting thing is that when we leave, from the station on a roller coaster, there's a level of expectation, that comes over us,
You're
right?
right.
We're strapped in, we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to use Cyclone, for instance. That's one of my favorite roller coasters at
Hmm.
Six Flags. And I love it because I feel so secure in it, right? Because it tucks in my legs, it tucks in my arms, and everything is secure. And then I'm ready to go full speed. And then along the way, during those corkscrews and those flips, you have this level of uncertainty too, which makes it really nice. And then you get back to the station, you're like, whoa, and there's a little bit of you that says, I'm good. And there's another big party that says, let's do that again. Like, let's really get rocking and rolling. And then the next
Yeah.
time you go on it, it's a little different because one, the person sitting next to you may be different. Two, the person behind you may be a little different, or you're sitting in a different seat. So now the perspective is a little different, right? Same roller coaster, same exact certainty with the straps and everything that you expect. And then when you go through it, it's like, holy smokes, like that was almost like the first time again.
And throw in
And so,
expectation
yeah,
because you know
exactly.
where
And
the
so,
turns are, but then they hit you differently. You're like, oh
and
shoot.
because again, you're almost anticipating, and then and then all of a sudden it shifts you. because the person next to you screams or the person in front of you throws your hands up, so you're blinded for a second. So before you had that expectation, you get to see where we're going. All of a sudden, the hand goes up, and you're like, "Whoa! Like what just happened?" I'm looking over here, and so as we look at what's going on in 2020 right now, and I loved there was a video that was released that talked about hindsight being 2020, right? And how now we're being given the full view, okay? And the full view is you,
Yes.
okay? You're not looking for more clarity of what the world has to in store, because you know what? That's always changing.
Yep.
What's the common denominator is us. And so as you're getting into that roller coaster seat, right? You're the one that's going to experience it every single time for the first time with the experience of last time or
Yes.
lack thereof. And so how are you handling that? And so one of these things, you know, one of the ways that I've been able to really take heed of that is like being more aware and slowing down and understanding my value for translation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and being like, oh shoot, okay. Now it's not that I'm looking to expect anything. It's really to say, hey, how can I experience more?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because my expectation is based on what I know already. Okay? What I know already. But knowing and experience more is letting go of that expectation and saying, you know what? I'm open to receive now, right? I am open to getting what this experience has in store for me every single second that I'm experiencing it. And a lot of times we hold on tight to those moments, which basically kinks the hose, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore now the water, all that flow, all that experience can't really give you the full experience because you're still holding on to expectation. And so this moment that we've all had experience with so far, you know, 11 months of this, my question to you is how well are you handling the roller coaster ride, and are you having fun yet? Have you realized that there's some fun in here?
Every day, bro, you wake up and it's like, oh man, what's someone gonna say today? What absolute asinine, inconsistent, a lot of times politician, what's going to come out of their mouth today? Who's going to make a decision that has zero experience in the decision they're making for those that have the most experience and put them in a position that they now get to be resourceful and figure it out?
Exactly.
How much more gray area can we live in? I look at expectation as what I think I want. And that's why we're so often let down, because we always receive exactly what we need. And that's why
Mm,
when you live by expectation, you're rolling the dice. It's 50-50, especially when it's within a human. And you're saying, you know, this is what I believe I want. And you get there and you're like, oh, I guess this is what I need. Actually, I know
right.
this is what I need. It's funny how I expected it to be different, but I'm still prepared for whatever it is that shows up. And that's the best part. I laugh a lot, man. I laugh a lot. And when people have come to me with what they think is their greatest letdown, like the greatest disappointment in their life or their greatest struggle, and I reply to them, what a gift. And
Yeah.
their face starts to go like this, and they get a little red, and they're like, it's not a fucking gift. And then eventually we laugh together. It's not a
Yeah.
gift. How can you say that? And I'm like, but
Yeah.
yes, it is. And then you don't have to convince them, because what we were sent here to do, Aaron, was change was shake the snow globe. We were here to change people's states, to give them permission to know what
Right.
it feels like to be a thermostat, even though you've been a thermometer your entire life, to give you thermostatic permission to do
Mm,
that and be able to just
mm,
laugh or to cry or to hug or to hold or to do something that's totally against the rules that you would never, ever, ever think of doing. There's never been so many rules as adults ever in any generation ever that people are looking at and calling it the law. Even I've had people say that these recommendation and guidelines, oh, that's the law, we have to do it. I said, says who? Like, says who? Like, and
yeah.
so there's so many opportunities to just shake a snow globe, to give people thermostatic permission. You could put that in the book. No one's ever said that before. We'll hashtag it thermostatic.
Thermostatic.
That's our word, right? We used to come
All
up with that
right.
word every time. And then what I love about it is this time right now is there's never been a being that possesses more inner certainty than you right now. in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing
That's
else
the truth.
in your life, anywhere else, that's more certain than you and who you are. No one can tell you that you're anything else because you are exactly who you are. You're not even at times who you think you are. So even if you think you're something you're not, you're not even that. So there's never been more certainty. And in the fact that we can actually decide who we can decide now even what sex we want to be. We can decide day in and day out whatever denomination we want to be. So there's never been more certainty in the uncertainty that lives within us. And there has never been a time to explore and identify a deeper love and connection within self. This is
Mm,
such a great opportunity
it
to
is.
wake up every day and discover and define and then redefine the deepest love and connection within any physical body ever before. Right now it lies within us. This is it. This is the time. And
Yeah.
to know that while you do that, you're literally growing, and in that growth you're going to be contributing so that you can be the greatest version of what a servant leader is to you and is to the world. This is
Mm-hmm.
all here right now, right in front of you. Push of a button. We've
Mm,
just experienced all 6 emotional drivers, and if you don't get goosebumps by being able to flip it on and deliver, and we're watching some of the greatest leaders of our time and some of the greatest leaders ever deliver a message to more people than they ever imagined, and they already were killing it. They were already
mm-hmm.
killing it,
Killing
and
it.
now they can do it even better because they didn't stop. They literally didn't
Right.
stop. Now you watch some of the greatest leaders in the world. You see their background. That's not a screensaver. That's screens that go like this. It's a 180-degree view, and then a space, and then another 180-degree view, and Tony Robbins delivered that to the world. He gave the world permission to start using it. Someone came up with an idea. He said, let's do it. And now
Let's
everyone's
go.
doing it. And look at all the billions of people now we can fit in a room. The impact, the
It's
speed
incredible.
with which we can grow
It's
through
incredible.
all 6 emotional drivers. There's not one person that's driven by one or another that doesn't have the opportunity to grow from the seat, from in front of a screen. Get in front of a screen, and it's
So
on.
let's go over that. So for those who are just chiming in, right, and they just caught this share and they said, "Hey, this guy's talking about 6 human drivers." Just briefly go over what those 6 are with a little description so that our audience can understand really where in each one of those categories they put value in, right? From a scale from 1 to 5. 5 being like this is my priority. This is what I'm driven by, all the way to number 1 being like, yeah, it's important, but it's not that important. Bring them through real quickly, just the 6 human drivers, because again, we want to grow,
You're right.
okay? We want to be able to expand, but the only way we can do that is to measure, right? So we need to give them some sort of matrix so they can measure what are we talking about here? How do we grow? How do we take what's going on right now? And that may be a more in-depth conversation, but again, give them some buckets to fill.
Yeah, and definitely go to YouTube and simply put in 6 emotional drivers or emotional drivers Tony Robbins, and you'll find little snips of his program and then a whole program on it. And
Yeah, this is good.
most often we start with certainty. Most people are driven number one by certainty, and that's why so many of us are frozen at times because we're not certain about the situation, so we freeze. And you'll know when you're having a moment because you'll be frozen.
Hmm.
And then you'll notice other moments where you're really driven to do something. And you'll either subconsciously or consciously, is what we look forward to you doing, be already in the driver's seat because the things that you need to happen first were either already determined, given to you, shown to you, or you've done it so many times that they're already there. They're already plugged in. So certainty being the most popular, it's not the best one to be driven by because as you see, a lot of us we're impacted and influenced by our outside environment, our external environment. We don't ordinarily reflect inside and drive from within. That takes some work. That takes a lot of trust in who you are. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of entrepreneurs are driven that way because they had to only trust in themselves to make decisions, take risks. You win or you learn mentality. So certainty is number one. That's being absolutely certain, 100% sure of something without a doubt. And the next one would be what most people are driven by is significance. Think about it. Not just egotistical significance, but the
Just
significance
what's in it for
of
me?
Yeah, the what's in it for me, how can I be seen? How can I be heard? And we grow up, and a lot of us grow up to be seen but not heard, to not talk to strangers, to be quiet. So a lot of the lessons we learned as children is where our significance is stripped from us, and so we fight for it. It's constantly a battle for so many of us until we realize that that's a glitch. We can go back and change it. And when you have certainty and significance stacked up one and two, it's going to be tough for you. You're going to be frozen a lot. There's going to be a lot of unsure situations where you freeze, and we can look for both of them in a positive and a negative. So if you wanted to write these down and then write a negative underneath it and a positive above, and then write the ways you find each and how they influence you, where you find certainty that's positive for you versus where you find it that's a negative situation for you. And you can do that for all of these. And then the next one that we find, and it's so powerful, is uncertainty. And we know without a doubt for a fact that it's outside of our comfort zone that the most uncertainty shows up. What's something that gives us the most variety? What's something that we can go into that when we may not be the most sure of ourselves in, but we know that if we jump and grow wings on the way down, that we're going to come out on top. And that's
Right.
really those uncertain moments, that those scotomas, those dark moments when we're starting to get out of that inception phase, the excitement's worn off. Now what? And what happens is we find out that we may not know the next step, but there are some of us, and there are times, as long as we can get through our initial emotional drivers, that we'll just dive right in to an uncertain moment and be like, holy smokes, this was amazing. That was
Yeah.
incredible. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you asked me to come, or I'm so glad you talked me into this. That's uncertainty. The one closely following that is in my life, this is my number one. It was after years and years of work and many programs. This is the one I shuffled to the front as it was, and I'll give you the brief exercise that how I did it was love and connection. That for me was why I was doing every single thing. It was I answered a question: whose affection or attention did you need most in your life, your mother or your father? And so I
Hmm.
answered that question. And then it said, what's the earliest memory you have? And for a lot of us, we think back, we find one. We think back, we find another one. And I've been sitting with people that have memories that they can trigger through some meditation all the way back to when they were an infant. Before they even had words, they only had images, and they could figure it out. And so for me, it was a moment when I was 4 years old. But what I found was I thought somebody was ripping away this love and connection. And my definition of it I gave was, I'm not good enough, or I'm not, if I was
Mm.
better, they wouldn't leave. And I defined it
Hmm.
because I didn't understand. And when we're growing and we're sponges, we have to understand. We have to. So we have to give it a
Right.
meaning. More so when we're younger, before the age of 7, than any other time in our life. And so because I did that, I grew up with a glitch. And so I fixed that glitch about 4 years ago, and I've never been so pure in my life, and so focused and determined. And I've never understood so much about this physical being and what expands and what is outside of it. And that's love and connection. A lot of people will settle for connection, Tony Robbins said, because love, they've had their heart broken one too many times. And so they're not willing to do things in order to receive love, but they want to be connected. We're tribal beings. Even if you're intrinsically driven, even if you're shy, you'll do anything to be part of the tribe. You'll even give up some of your belief and identity in order
To fit
to
in.
adopt, yeah, to fit in, right? And so
Mhm.
it's almost an addiction. It's an innate drawing of being in a tribe. And the reason why was because if we weren't back in the dinosaur age, or back in the Stone Age, we would be eaten. If we didn't have a tribe, we would starve to death, and we wouldn't have the protection we needed when we were in danger. And so a lot of what we're equipped with and what we're still using is out of date. But the
Mm.
brain is archaic, man. It's out of date. It's out of date. And so if you don't get in there and do some programming and update that thing, look how many times my phone just updated last night. Look how many
Yeah.
times our phones update and we get the latest technology, and we're using it with the most out of date thing in the world, which is our brain. Update it. You got to
Hmm.
get in there. You got to get into the inner workings. It's going to take some investment, especially if you want to do it to create more income or to more impact or to provide more value. You've got to invest. Nothing's going to happen without that investment. And so the next one, so we've got certainty, we've got uncertainty, we've got significance, love and connection. This next one that's so near and dear to a lot of people, but definitely Aaron and I, is growth and
Absolutely.
contribution. Man, this
Absolutely.
growth and contribution is huge.
Hmm.
I I am so driven by growth and contribution that
I'm
I
obsessed
feel
with it.
so blessed to give back that I'm even willing to do it in the next emotional driver of servant leadership, servitude, absolute servitude. Even still, wake up, grow and contribute in a manner of service that may even halt or stop me in the process of providing for the very things that I need the most. So I am
Hmm.
willing to give up because my tank is so full, because Aaron and I have created this process where we can fill our tanks. We can be in a service leadership, a servant leader position quite often, and still do it without falling back, falling behind, because we know we're not going to do it unless it's a win-win. So we're going to fill a bucket. So we may give something of ourselves, but we're going to fill a bucket in exchange because we're going to make that our fuel. That act that we're doing is going to create the fuel that drives our vehicle. And because we took care of all those other emotional drivers, we can get to the servant that servant leader position. Now, there's very few people that have ever been born that can get to that level and stay there all the time. Aaron and I are certainly not one of those people. We do get there, but it takes a lot of focus, concentration, determination, conscious effort, but we don't live there. There's very few that have ever been even graced this planet. The number one most servant leader that we've ever heard of is Jesus Christ,
Hmm.
who died on the cross so that others could live a life of their dreams, gave up his own, right? So the story of the Bible is all about servant leadership and how that what that process is. And there's people like Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa. Um, I mean, there's only a
There's a
handful,
lot of them, a lot of human
right?
beings.
I mean, there's only probably a handful, or maybe 10 total ever that stayed
Right.
in that position. They lived in that position, and we're in a place where we can all get to it, but we probably won't live there, and we don't have to. We don't have to
Right.
because of what those people that came before us did. And those are all 6 emotional drivers. Now, they're going to be sorted in all different ways, but make a list. Find out when you get there. Is it positive or negative? What's my favorite flavor? A lot of us find our favorite flavor of suffering, and we say, "Oh, well, why am I suffering? What's going on? Which emotional driver is not being fulfilled for me?" It's one of the greatest lessons I've ever done. It's sorted and sifted out so many human behaviors and patterns for myself and for others. And so it's the most powerful translator, and it's across anyone. Any human has only 6 emotional drivers to deal with, and the top two are not ones that are visited too often, and you must satisfy at least 3 every day. You must satisfy at least 3 of those, if not all 6. But you must satisfy each 3 every day, and you'll do your top 3. You'll do anything it takes. And remember, it can be a negative or a positive in each of those emotional drivers. You will sacrifice anything to get those done. And so many of us get stuck in places where we're consistently getting the negatives out of it, and we don't know why. And we've matched 2 things up against each other, and we've made it certain just to get certainty. It's crazy. But does
It is
that make
crazy.
sense?
Oh yeah, perfect sense. And so we share this with you because it is so important to understand what are you using to sort and sift the events in your life, right? From your emotional events to your mental events to your physical events, and Keith just dropped me off the top of the table. Um,
My bad.
you must understand the tool that you're using. And so this is a great way to again take some introspective, right? Look at yourself within and saying, okay, how am I handling it? And a lot of times before COVID, we would have something else provide the excuse or the reason why something else is more important than you looking inside yourself,
Yes.
right? And so we do that and we get into this hypnotic state of busyness where
Hmm.
we completely become oblivious to who we are. Next thing we know, it's 20 years later, like I have no idea who I am, right? And all I've done is work my whole life. And the interesting thing, Keith, is that when I did this this activity, and now I do it on a regular basis, and I'm using it as my tool to see, because when I'm starting to feel unfulfilled, this is where you're going to find where your energy is pulling away from fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going towards doing, right? So if you have these tools now and you can analyze them, you can say, okay, well, am I driven on certainty? Am I driven on uncertainty? And then you can maybe, again, like Keith said, go in there and look and say, okay, positively, how am I driven by certainty? Or negatively, how am I driven by certainty? And then uncertainty, right? Negative, positive. Significance, right? Negative, positive. And then there's, what do you call it? Then there's growth and contribution. And
Oh, yeah. So you have certainty, uncertainty, significance, love connection, growth contribution,
oh yeah, love and
significance.
connection. So then you say love and connection, right? And this is a good one because relationships, okay, can distract you from loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So if you're in a situation where you allow really toxic relationships to obtain your life, a lot of that has to do with maybe the negative driver in that
Mm-hmm.
love and connection. So there's a great example, right? If you're around a lot of toxic environments and toxic relationships, but you stick around, that connection and loving connection may be there, but then it's like, okay, well, they still make me feel important, even if it's negative importance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you see where we're going with this, and then there's growth and contribution, right? Am I driven on giving and growing and developing? And I think that, if anything, is probably the majority of people's ultimate goal, right? At least from a spiritual side, you're realizing that the more you give, the more you're fulfilled. And I listened to John Maxwell last night, and
Yes.
even Sly Stallone was in there, and
Yep.
these guys, and the question was, why do you keep doing what you're doing? Right? Why? I
Yeah.
mean, money, the time for money thing is gone, right? You don't even
Right.
need money anymore.
No.
Money, and John Maxwell said, he goes, listen, me working for money left a long time ago. He goes, the money just keeps coming in. You know what I
It
mean?
just
I've
keeps
written
happening.
87 books and they just keep coming. He goes,
Yeah.
so it's not about making money anymore. It's about this goal of giving everything I have, like emptying the tank, right? And so you can see that he's certainly driven on growth and contribution, right? So, but that took time. And
Yeah.
that took work.
Effort.
And that's what we want to invite you to do. That if COVID-19 is making you think of a few things that you've never thought about before you actually make a decision on what it could mean, let's analyze how we're using the tool to sort it, right? And this is a great way to say, okay, where's the certainty? Where's the uncertainty? Where's the significance? Where's the loving connection? Where's the growth and contribution, right? And just give it some rating. And it may change daily. It may change weekly. It may change hourly. Like you being aware is the number one thing. And that's what's helped me to deal with some of the most challenging moments in my life and be able to get the best out of it, to look at it not as a distraction, but as an opportunity. And then a sharing moment, then a teaching moment, right? And then my children, it was funny. Both children looked at the passing of our cat differently. My
Mm.
6-year-old said, well, we can just get another pet.
I
That's
love
what
it.
he
I
said. He said, why
love
don't we
it.
just get another one?
Cool.
That's what he
One
said,
more. It's not the last cat
right?
in the world.
And right? And he spent the most time with it.
Right?
He literally would say, come on, Nuggie, jump in the box. And he would push her around the house and she would sit in the box. He would take her out over near the kitchen and say, hey, you want something to eat? And he would feed, like, that was his best friend.
Oh
But
man.
it's so interesting how his
Innocence.
growth in relationships was like, okay, like I get it. And because of, our values in our home where we put spirituality first and everything, he
Yeah, no
knows that this
fear.
is temporary. So he's like, listen, he's like, yeah, well, Nuggie went to be with God and one day I will see her. Like in his
Cool.
mind, he's like, yo, we're good. Like, you know what I mean? Like she passed, but Elijah had a little tougher time because again, being older, he's heard a few more things,
Yeah.
right? And he's had some exposure to some others' experiences and other people's opinions, right? So as we grow older, we end up adopting all of these tools. We put them in our cabinets, we put them in our drawers, and sometimes unconsciously, we don't even realize we start using other people's tools to sort through our stuff. And like I said, 20 years go by, and you're like, whoa, like, hold on a second, But the cool thing about life Keith, and this is something that I really, really admire, is that you can always start now.
Yes.
No, there's no rules to when it's
Yes.
over or when it starts. You get to do that. And so when you switch that on, and you say, you know what? I choose to make a different decision because of what I just heard, what I just felt, whatever I just experienced. I can say, you know what? I'm gonna go back on that ride again. I was
Yeah.
terrified of roller coasters, but you know what? That actually gave me a little bit of a good feeling, and it made it feel good, and I felt brave, and you know what? I wasn't so scared. And you know what? That was probably one of the most important rides of my life, and
Yes.
that was literally driven through uncertainty. And I'm so thankful, Keith, that you posted that. So, I mean, that you said that. So, if you can post in this message for those who will see this on replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we know who are chiming in and we can make sure to get you the messages you need of the exercise, you know,
Yes.
that Tony shares so that people can implement this because this is so important. If you're not using the right translator, it's no different than taking Google Translator and saying, I want to take this phrase in Spanish, all right, and I want you to translate it into French, but guess what? The translator only does German.
Oh shit.
How well you think that's going to work out, right? It's going
That's
to be
not
a
fun.
frustrating task to the point where you say, you know what, this doesn't work. I quit. I don't even want to know what it says now. And it could literally be the life-changing message of your life, but you didn't take the time to realize, hold on a second, I need a different tool. And this is a great one.
Yeah, I love it, man. So to take you out today, I'm typing in all the six emotional drivers. And what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll put in the link to Tony's exercise. And
Awesome.
what you're going to find is that there's so many little nuggets in there. It won't be a one-time listen. It's probably going to be a multiple-time listen. And then get to an event, get to the global events that he's doing right now that are virtual. There's so much value out there right now with today's leaders. It is absolutely exploded, and what a perfect time for it. So for everybody that showed up on today's broadcast, it was a doozy. I'm going to go back and listen. The loves, the likes, the comments that you guys offer here live and on replay, that is the heartbeat and the breath of the broadcast. That's what keeps Aaron and I going. It fills our tank. It also
Amen.
fills each other's tanks. And for the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to see this on replay, hashtag replay, continue to contribute, continue to let the message grow and marinate inside of you so we can all appreciate and see your views. We will see you tomorrow on In the Tank Live with Aaron Hairston and Keith Deyo, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
Peace.